Hello, Grace, and welcome back to the Bible cover to cover. Today we're going to go through Numbers 2 and 3. So, Numbers 2 begins with a description of the Israelite camp in the wilderness. The tribes are named along with their positions, beginning with Judah in the east, Reuben in the south, Ephraim in the west, and Dan in the north. The Lord's sanctuary is in the center. And once again, the camp of Israel is orchestrated around what we called cosmic geography. The peoples of the ancient Near East shared a worldview that the cosmos revolved around a sacred center. You know, a holy mountain, a primordial garden, in Norse mythology, the world tree. This is the point where heaven and earth overlap and where the veil between the mundane and the sacred can at times be crossed. With the tabernacle at the center, the arrangement of the tribes according to the cardinal directions covers the entirety of spatial reality. God is the center, and all of creation revolves around him. So even the position of the camp is making a truth claim about the structure of the world and the cosmos and Israel's relationship to it. The Levites directly surround the tent of meeting. In Joshua, there's a command that the secular tribes be separated from the sanctuary by over 1,000 yards. And so the Levites are kind of surrounding it, acting as a buffer between God's presence in the tabernacle and the rest of the tribes of Israel. This is both a camping formation and also a battle formation. If you remember from previous chapter, Israel is being amassed and arranged and getting ready to march off to war. Takeaway: when Israel camps, God's sanctuary is at its center. And when Israel marches, God's sanctuary is at its center. The divine presence is not just a feature of Israel, it is the sacred center around which all of life is organized. The arrangement of the camp is a picture of this cosmic order. When Israel sins, they are not merely breaking rules, but there's a sense in which they're being viewed as disordering the actual cosmos. So in John 1:14, it says, "The Word became flesh," and this is really key in the Greek word, tabernacled among us. It's evoking the same imagery of the camp of Israel surrounding the tabernacle. So here we get a picture of God dwelling among us when we sit still and marching with us when we are on the move. Just as the Israelite camp was led by a pillar of smoke, so too, when John speaks of Jesus as our tabernacle, does it imply that we move in camp as we are led by the Word. If we carry this ancient Near Eastern analogy a little bit further, to follow Jesus is to align ourselves with that same cosmic order and to participate in the restructuring of a disordered cosmos. Or, as our Jewish brothers are fond of saying, the purpose of the people of God is to repair the world. And so that brings us now to Numbers 3. Numbers 3 begins with a genealogy of the sons of Aaron, and it includes a reminder that two of Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu, offered unholy fire before the Lord and were killed. And so keep in mind, we're back to that statement, "Be holy as I am holy," and the presence of the divine in the midst of the people. And really think about it. It's just like as Paul says, this perishable must put on incorruptible. He's talking about the translation of our mortal bodies into a spiritual body, which is really only going to happen, when we pass away, when we die, or when our Lord comes to take us. In the same sense, that's what's being communicated here in the Torah, with God's presence right there. To approach God is to cross over that veil. It is a very dangerous thing to stand in the presence of God. This reminds me of a scene in the books, Chronicles of Narnia, where Lucy is sitting with Mr. Tumnus and is told that Aslan, this great lion, is on the move. And when she finds out that he's a lion, she says, "Oh, is he safe?" And Mr. Tumnus responds, no, he is not safe, but he is good. And that's kind of the awesome, when it talks about the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, that's kind of the idea that we're to take with us, that there's something inherently unsafe about God's presence. His holiness is so penetrating. So here we are now with the next chapter, Numbers chapter 3. So at this point, the Levites are consecrated to the Lord. In Numbers 3, 7 through 8, the Levites are commissioned to assist the Aaronic priesthood in serving at the tabernacle. This language once again echoes Genesis 2:15, where Adam and his duties in the Garden of Eden, he's told to guard, to keep, to shamar, and to serve, and to eved, to serve and to keep the garden, to plant and till the earth. This is the same, one of many linguistic parallels, and it's the same words that are used in the duties of the Levites and the high priests here at the tabernacle. And it's asking us to once again make that connection that the tabernacle is kind of a mobile Garden of Eden. It is the presence of God amongst its people and moving with us. And then the chapter moves on to a census of the Levites. The Levites were not counted in the beginning of Numbers, in Numbers chapter 1, because it's a census of fighting men. And the Levites are exempted from military service. So chapter 1 is just a census of the fighting men, and so now the Levites are being counted because they were exempted from the military census. The Levites formed that inner ring around the tabernacle, separating God's sanctuary from the rest of the camp, creating that buffer from the awesomeness of God. Moses and Aaron's sons are camped on the east, and that's the entrance of the tabernacle. And so the Levites are all around, and then the high priests sit there guarding the entrance. The chapter concludes with a section on the redemption of the firstborn. It's a dedication of a portion of the people of Israel to God. In the same way that we might sacrifice or tithe the first fruits of a harvest to God, so the firstborn are redeemed and given to God. This goes back to Exodus. And in Numbers and in Leviticus, it'll bring this up and remind us again and again about it, is that the firstborn of Egypt died in the final plague, in the 10th plague. Therefore, Israel's firstborn are commanded to be consecrated to God. And instead of taking the firstborn from every tribe, the Levites act as a kind of a substitute. And so at the very end of the chapter, what happens is, if there's a difference, and in this case there are more firstborn than there are Levites to substitute, the difference is made up through an enumeration, through a tithe or an offering that takes place. And so that is the Numbers chapters 2 and chapters 3.